what up? This is my pay-per-view review of TNA's Final Resolution 2008 pay-per-view of December 2008, because it's the second Final Resolution pay-per-view of 2008. The first one held back in January, with the names of some pay-per-views being switched around to certain dates, like next month's Genesis, which is normally a November pay-per-view, and the following month's Turning Point, which was normally this month's pay-per-view, and this pay-per-view is, like I said, normally a January pay-per-view. So they switched that up, and like I said, like a lot of people will say that, you know, this pay-per-view was easily TNA's worst pay-per-view of the year, easily the worst pay-per-view of the year. I wouldn't even call this a pay-per-view. What I would call this is a three-hour edition of Impact live on pay-per-view, and for some reason TNA conned some fans into buying the pay-per-view, which I feel for anyone that actually went out their way and paid $30 for this pay-per-view, because if I actually spent $30 for this pay-per-view, I would be completely pissed off with TNA, and they would have to do something to my eyes, even though I probably wouldn't get Genesis. But say if I, did think about ordering Genesis, they would have to put some type of big card in my eyes to even think about ordering that pay-per-view, or anyone that, typically orders TNA pay-per-views. And this was easily the worst pay-per-view of the year. It was just a live 3-hour edition of Impact that was a pay-per-view edition. It should have just been called TNA Live Impact on December 7th, 2008, not Final Resolution. This is not a pay-per-view. If this would have been, a 3-hour edition of Live Impact, obviously I don't think that many of us would be bashing it severely. Now, still, even if it was Impact, would it be a good show? Would it get some passes? Some stuff will, some stuff wouldn't. I would say, if it was an Impact, other than a pay-per-view, it would be probably being called a, average show, other than being, one of the worst shows of the year, since it was a pay-per-view. The opening matchup was the Feast or Fired match with people that were in this were the Motor City Machine Guns, LAX, The Rock and Rave Infection, Jay Lethal, Consequences Creed, BG James, Kip James, Curry Man, Sonjay Dutt, and Shark Boy. And this was, the stipulation of this was that they have 4 briefcases on on 4 corner posts, and the wrestlers have to grab them. And not only do they have to grab the briefcase, but they have to retrieve the briefcase and reach to the floor with it in their possession. So in the case of what they did in this match, which I would get to, is that say if a wrestler grabs one of the briefcases and they're in the ring and they're got it, that wouldn't constitute them getting the briefcase. They would have to get to the floor, which they did that. I think they even did that at the January Final Resolution pay-per-view, where they used some type of stipulation like that. The people that got the briefcases in here were Hernandez, Homicide, Curryman, and Jay Lethal. And this was, an average opener. It wasn't anything spectacular. It really depends what you think of the gimmick. If you hate the gimmick match, that's going to hurt your opinion of the match, which hurts my opinion of this match a little bit, because I think this whole Feast or Fire thing is completely idiotic. TNA should have learned when they did it back at the January Final Resolution pay-per-view, the first Final Resolution of 2008. They should have learned that that gimmick match didn't get over, the fans didn't like it, and it was pretty much more or less a complete clusterfuck and not a good match. Which it was here, it was at least average. You saw some okay stuff in here from Hernandez and Homicide, Motor City Machine Guns, Jimmy Rave. You saw some, decent stuff in here. And what they did after this match was, obviously you have to wait till Impact to see 3 of the 4 contents of the briefcase on this pay-per-view. I think unlike what they did at Final Resolution, they actually, January, they actually showed you on this pay-per-view what was in one of the contents of the briefcase, and that was Jay Lethal's contents of the briefcase. And to get into that, that's pretty much the only thing in this match to even talk about, which was, at the end of this, they had the Motor City Machine Guns holding the briefcase, last briefcase, which Jay Lethal retrieved. Motor City Machine Guns got it down. They were celebrating in the ring with it. They didn't get to the floor. Then Jay Lethal just does a springboard, grabs a hold of it, gets to the floor, so he gets that briefcase. And what was in his contents of the briefcase was a tag team title shot, which, what the fuck are you doing, TNA? So I guess in this case, they'll give Hernandez the world title shot. Homicide, the X Division title shot. Curryman obviously getting the briefcase with the pink slip like everyone's expecting. Jay Lethal, like I said, got the tag team briefcase, which is idiotic. So the two tag teams in here that really desperately need to do something in the tag division. They've been building up LAX with these rough cut segments. You're telling me that they're not getting a tag team title shot? One of the best tag teams in TNA, the Motor City Machine Guns, which is highly over with the crowd. They're not getting a tag team title shot, but Jay Lethal and some random partner is going to be getting a tag team title shot, which is completely idiotic. It would have been better if he would have just got the world title shot, took on Sting on one of the impacts coming up in the coming weeks. Him obviously not defeating him, but looking good in the match. And then, Homicide Hernandez or the Motor City Machine Guns getting the briefcase for the tag team title shot. Then, the X Division title shot, I could have dealt with, someone like Consequences Creed or Sonjay Dutt holding it, or, even Shark. Well, I wouldn't mind that, just as long as, they would have went that route. I think that would have worked out better in this match. 2.5 stars. You saw some okay stuff in there, but the gimmick of the match is idiotic, and hopefully they don't do it again at next year's Final Resolution pay-per-view, I guess, which is going to be airing in December instead of January now. And hopefully they don't go that route of that gimmick match anymore. Hopefully after 2 times they'll figure out that it doesn't work, unless they want to do it in the way where they actually have to write someone off, and it'd be a perfect way to write someone off with the fire stipulation of it. And after this, you see the Motor City Machine Guns in the ring. You see them pretty much complaining that, we got the briefcase for the tag team title shot. Jay Lethal stole it from us. And they ran through this without the whole entire evening, with a couple backstage segments, even a segment later on, which I will get to. And then for some reason or another, after this, at the beginning and after this, when they were complaining, Jeremy Borash got on the mic and cut a promo against them, where this is just the guy that does, the TNA Todays, stuff like that, and the ring announcing, and yet he does some promo pretty much, bashing or at least bearing a little bit for the Motor City Machine Guns, which I'm hoping they're going to lead it to something else. I don't know what it will be. Maybe a future tag team title shot, which they desperately need. A tag team like them or LAX will really rejuvenate the tag team division. Definitely a feud like between them two teams will definitely be the feud you need to do to rejuvenate the tag team division. Even though I have stated that I do enjoy Beer Money Incorporated as tag team champions. Not really a fan of them, but I will say they're working good as a tag team. But they're not the tag team that's going to help rejuvenate the tag team division, though. I mean, I think anyone, even if you're a fan of them or you're not a fan of them, I think everyone can see that they're not a tag team that's going to re-energize the tag team division. And then after this, you get the 6-woman knockouts match with the beautiful people Angelina Love and Velvet Sky teaming up with Sharmell versus ODB, Roxxi, and Taylor Wilde. Just say average women's match, not even average. This would have been a piss poor match on pay-per-view or television. It should have been, maybe a little better quality, since, Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, they're actually, pretty good. And Taylor Wilde sometimes can do some good stuff. Sometimes she completely sucks. And this was one of those nights. And Roxy's probably one of the best TNA knockouts that TNA needs to try to do a little better with, instead of doing this whole Roxxi versus Beautiful People feud, which should have been dead a long time ago, but for some reason they're trying to still keep it alive for some reason or another. Way the match ends is Taylor Wilde pins Angelina Love for the victory in a 1 3/4 star match at best. Then after this, you get Eric Young versus Sheik Abdul Bashir for the X Division title. And like I was saying, I hope TNA wouldn't do. They actually did. They did the same type of finish they kind of did on Impact, where it looked like Eric Young picked up the X Division title. The way the match ends was Sheik Abdul Bashir was holding on to the ropes for leverage with Eric Young, and then the referee Shane Schull hit Sheik Abdul Bashir to get his arms off the ropes, and then you just see Eric Young roll up Sheik Abdul Bashir. So right at that point, it looks like Eric Young's won the X Division title, but obviously another controversial ending for a match involving Sheik Abdul Bashir. So, not after this match, you see Sheik Abdul Bashir beat up. You see him beat up Shane Sewell. You see him beat up Eric Young, and then after this, he has to relinquish title. Jim Cornette comes out there, so now the X Division title is vacated. They didn't really announce what they were going to do with it until later on in the evening, which they announced coming this Thursday on Impact. I guess they're going to be starting to do a tournament for the X Division title, which is completely pointless. I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know why they would do the same screw job type finish they did at the Impact like they did a couple weeks ago. Pretty similar, since Eric Young, both of those times looks like he was the X Division champion, but then the decision got reversed or something along the lines like that, where it doesn't even count, which is really stupid, especially doing it for pay-per-view. Doing it for TV, that can pass, and I'm okay with it, but not on pay-per-view. At best, 2 stars for that match. Then the next matchup was Christy Hemme versus Amazing Kong for the TNA Knockouts title. And I was expecting this match to not be that good, but I was expecting them to maybe be at least average or better than I was expecting. I was hoping they would book it in a way where it looked like Amazing Kong is strong, but at the same time make it look like a competitive match with Christy Hemme instead of being a squash match, even though some people probably want it to be the way of a squash match and her just Amazing Kong pretty much dominating and destroying Christy Hemme. But with the way the Knockouts division is, and it's pretty weak now, you kind of have to do something to make some TNA Knockouts that maybe not be credible, maybe shouldn't be going for it, but you kind of have to do a little something different and maybe make some look credible, and they didn't even do that here. I guess some points they did, since they made it look like Amazing Kong needed help from Raisha Saeed and Rocket Khan outside the ring, and the ending of this was very weird, which was Rocket Khan and Raisha Saeed were outside the ring. They were beating up Christy Hemme. Now, obviously, the ref saw this. The referee wasn't, looking behind and not seeing it. He saw it in clear view, and the commentators pretty much played this off that the referees letting this match go. That typical saying, and that a lot of commentators say when referees don't DQ someone right at first. Then after this, probably not even a minute later, you see Raisha Saeed and Rocket Khan come in the ring, attack Christy Hemme, and then Christy Hemme wins this match by DQ, which makes sense, 2 people coming in there, and you'd have to DQ them, but since they didn't DQ them before, it looked like, maybe, just since, it looks like Amazing Kong's trying to hold on to the title with cheap tactics of DQ, the referee wouldn't DQ Amazing Kong and let the match keep going. I think that would have maybe worked out better, but I guess with Christy Hemme winning this match by DQ, this is obviously going to lead up to a match at the Genesis pay-per-view between those two, which unfortunately I'm not going to be shocked if Christy Hemme wins the Knockouts title. It could be worse. It could be Tracy Brooks holding on to it, but Christy Hemme's not that good either. Hopefully they do something in the next coming months, have her do a little more training, maybe make her look credible in the match. Then it might be okay her to be defeating Amazing Kong, but I don't like this idea of Amazing Kong, losing to. She loses she's probably going to lose in a shock faction like she did with Taylor Wilde, but it really hurts the credibility of her being, a very destructive heel that pretty much is going to demolish everyone if these 2 pretty much untalented women's wrestlers are able to defeat her. So at best, 1.5 stars at best, and that's probably being pretty generous to that match. I would say easily the worst match of the pay-per-view. Then the next matchup was for the TNA Tag Team titles with the defending champions Beer Money Incorporated, James Storm and Robert Roode, versus Matt Morgan and Abyss. And I wasn't expecting this to be that good of a tag team match, because I'm not a fan of Matt Morgan. Abyss, on the other hand, Abyss is a good overall wrestler, and he can work good with some people. And I thought, maybe with him being in the ring more often than Matt Morgan in this match, maybe that could have worked out. But this match pretty much got squashed to being saying that it could be a good match at the beginning because it was repetitive. They did the typical thing with what a heel tag team or heel wrestler does, where they want to say, I'm not competing tonight, I'm walking to the back, I'm not even going to defend this, you're not worthy, stuff like that. Then, the typical, referee announced that if you don't get back in the ring before the 10 count, you have to relinquish your tag team titles. So they both get in the ring before the 10 count and then slide back out. And they do this back and forth so often where it gets overkill. It's okay to do it and, have it dragged on, have it teasing, and trying to gain more heel heat for each other. But when you do it to the point where it's overkill, then it's completely idiotic, which that's the case they did go with this. And not that good of a tag team match. Expect maybe a tad bit better, especially with in the recent months, Beer Money Incorporated actually showcasing they can work good as a tag team. And at the end of this match, Beer Money Incorporated, they retain. The way the match ends is you see James Storm get a beer bottle. Looks like he's going to hit Abyss with it. Abyss blocks it. Then you see him get thrown brass knucks. He hits Abyss with the brass knucks, the referee not looking. And then Beer Money Incorporated get the victory by James Storm pinning Abyss, so they're still tag team champions, which is the good thing that comes out of this match. Because I definitely didn't want to kind of throw together a tag team of Abyss and Matt Morgan being new tag team champions, and hopefully this leads to something. Hopefully they don't do something with Jay Lethal and some random part and being tag champs. I don't think they will, but knowing TNA's booking, you can't take anything out of the equation. Anything could happen. I mean, they could be smart in some cases, but most cases they'll do something dumb, which hoping they won't do that. Hopefully they'll have Beer Money Incorporated lose these tag traps to a legitimate tag team like LAX or Motor City Machine Guns, but they definitely have to do something to push those two tag teams to make them look credible or do something with them, especially Motor City Machine Guns, which I'll get into. This tag match, another 2-star match. Then after this, they do backstage segment with Motor City Machine Guns, pretty much going over the same thing, saying we got screwed out of our tag team title shots from Jay Lethal. We should be the ones getting the briefcase for the tag team title shots. And then pretty much Mick Foley, makes another joke about them, which they completely look like now they're just a running laughing stock in TNA Motor City Machine Guns. And they come out to the ring. They both get chairs. They say we're not going to leave until we get what we want. Then you see the lights go out, and Suicide makes his debut. The new gimmick, Suicide, which I'm pretty sure it's being portrayed by Kazarian. I'm pretty sure he's the one under the outfit. But as a lot of people have stated, and especially wrestling news sources, that Kazarian's injured at this point. But I don't think a lot of us know how severely injured he was or how bad he was. So maybe it's him. He did just do a run in here, and very stupid segment. Hopefully they supplement Motor City Machine Guns. Hopefully their contract's not ending soon. They're trying to write them off or something, because that's pretty much what it seems like. It doesn't seem like they're trying to lead this to something, building them up further. It's pretty much them even burying them further than what they were already getting buried ever since, their whole escapade where they didn't want to do the blade job back at the Destination X pay-per-view. And pretty much they've been in the doghouse ever since. And I don't know what the hell TNA's, I don't know when they're going to get over that or why TNA is holding a grudge with the Motor City Machine Guns. It doesn't make any sense at all. But I have heard, Alex Shelley's one of those guys that's very outspoken. If he disagrees with something, he'll be outspoken about it. So maybe he's one of those wrestlers that has a little attitude, and TNA is trying to pay him back in that way, and they're still in the doghouse for some reason or another. It has to be a little something more than just that blade job, like probably a lot of people are expecting. It has to be something more than that. Then the next matchup was Rhino versus Kurt Angle, a special enforcer, Mick Foley. And the stipulation of this match was if Rhino was able to defeat Kurt Angle had to retire, and if Kurt Angle won, he gets a match with Jeff Jarrett at the Genesis pay-per-view next month. And like a lot of people expected, Kurt Angle gets the victory, and the way this match ends, like they did on Impact, where they teasing that Kurt Angle's going to have someone at his side in his corner, a former tag champion or world champion with Mick Foley, and a lot of people were expecting, okay, TNA is just trying to do the con job of teasing people that it might be Austin or Rock, since a lot of casual fans will think that, even though I'm pretty sure no one in their right mind ever thought that it would be one of them. So the other cases could have been, Mikey Whipwreck or Terry Funk. It wasn't neither one of them. It ended up being Al Snow. Al Snow distracts Mick Foley. Kurt Angle hits Rhino with the chair, then hits the Angle Slam, and Kurt Angle gets the victory in a 2.5-star match. Probably one of the better matches of the night, but that's not saying that much from this pay-per-view, though. Then after this, they have the main event with the main event Mafia of Sting, Booker T, Scott Steiner, and Kevin Nash versus the TNA Frontline of AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Team 3D with the title on the line. The stipulation of this was if the main event Mafia won this match, Sting retains the title. But if the TNA Frontline won this match, AJ Styles would become champion. Now, that meant if AJ Styles got the pinfall, Samoa Joe, or either member of Team 3D. It didn't have to be AJ Styles getting the pinfall, which was very idiotic. They could have just done this match. It would have worked out okay. 1 month not having the title on the line, and just having this build up the feud with the main event Mafia and the front line. And in that case, you could have had the front line actually go over since the title wasn't on the line. If they would have went that route, it would have been a whole lot better. Surprisingly, they didn't go the Russo-esque finish with the swerve that Team 3D will turn on the front line and join the main event Mafia, showing that they've been with them all along, which I figured them to maybe go that route. Definitely kind of shocks me with Russo that they didn't go that route, but still a very, very, very weak finish of this match, which was they had Sting was placed on the top rope. Joe gets him into the Muscle Buster. Then Kevin Nash low blows him, and then Sting hits the Death Drop to Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe gets pinned, so the main event Mafia and Sting retains his TNA World Heavyweight title, which is probably the only good thing that came out of this pay-per-view was Sting retained the title just because I'm a fan of AJ Styles, but I don't want him to win the title in a fluke fashion or some 8-man tag. He has to win the title and look credible in a singles match against Sting. Sting has to do the job and do the job cleanly. Hopefully TNA will do that and do it in a smart way, possibly either at the Against All Odds pay-per-view or Destination X. Most likely I'm thinking probably Against All Odds, or maybe they want to drag this feud out till Lockdown and then have AJ Styles win the title there. But I wouldn't want that either because that I think that would really be dragging it out probably a little too longer than what you probably should do with it. But that's probably the only thing good came out of this pay-per-view was Sting retain the title because I didn't want AJ Styles to win the title in this fashion. Like I said, I want him to win it in a one-on-one occasion against Sting and actually win it fairly. No help from someone turning on the main event Mafia or Samoa Joe or someone else or another helping him win the title. He needs to win it fairly. Hopefully TNA will book it that way. When AJ Styles, most likely he's going to be the one to dethrone Sting of the title. Main event, I would give 2 3/4 stars. It was the best match of the night, but that's not saying much. This is easily TNA's worst pay-per-view of the year. I would give it a 4 out of 10. I doubt that I would say probably, I would guess at least 75% of people that viewed this pay-per-view at best thought it was probably an average at best, and probably a lot of other people, expect probably thought it was like what I did, which was a completely utter shit pay-per-view. This was not a pay-per-view. It was a throwaway pay-per-view, which is okay for wrestling promotions to have throwaway pay-per-views. But even if you have throwaway pay-per-views, you can book better stuff than this. You can book at least a solid undercard and at least a very good main event, or at least a solid main event. Then you can at least have, an average show, and it would, not in my eyes be worth ordering the pay-per-view for, but it will at least be, worth saying, hey, what they did on here was actually okay booking. It wasn't, kooky TNA booking like this pay-per-view was. I wouldn't even call this a pay-per-view. Like I said earlier, this was just the December 7th, 2000 edition of Impact, live on Sunday on pay-per-view for $30. And for anybody that actually spent $30 for this pay-per-view, I really feel for you because this was really, really bad. I mean, this was definitely the worst pay-per-view this year. WWE's had some bad ones. TNA has had a couple bad ones, but I really think this takes the cake of being the worst pay-per-view of the year from TNA. I mean, wasn't expecting much from it from the card, but like I said, I was expecting at least something average for this pay-per-view. I was expecting at least maybe a watchable pay-per-view.